I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
if you're not pointing at me, that's disrespectful.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I
don't respect you at all.
So,
all right, hold it. Hold it. No.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
This is the thing that really everybody has been talking about after the Senate hearing. So we just reacted to some clips from a House hearing, and this is everybody's been reacting to this coming out of the Senate hearing.
People who know that I'm like a union guy have been like, "Hey, Adam, did you hear about that?" Yeah.
What have they said? What have they said?
They're just like, "Have you heard?
Have you heard?
Have you heard about this crazy senator who wants to like fight one of your union guys?" Yeah. So I thought Markwayne Mullen, I wouldn't have to talk about him again this year.
Yeah.
I was really hoping I wouldn't have to deal with him again.
Yeah.
But here he is back invading my consciousness because of his foolishness.
There we go. Infringing on your property rights to your brain space, to your mental space.
Yeah, like stop harming my psyche, bro, by doing stupid shit that gets you in the news, and then I have to look at it and be like, oh wow, this guy literally holds power over other human beings.
Right.
He is one of the most powerful people in the country.
Yeah,
and he's a freaking moron.
Right. I was looking at his background. We'll talk some more about his background, but he is the only senator. And when I saw this, I was like immediately, oh, that's like kind of cool. And then it's like, oh no, he's giving like this group of people like a bad name. Like that's not good. He's the only senator without at least a bachelor's degree.
Well, proof that education and class are not synonymous, right?
Yeah, he's a multi-millionaire.
Right. Just because you know, I know, and in this country, class is very obscured. And, you know, there's a lot of debate in this country about who is working class, who's middle class. People have been raised up in this country to believe they're all middle class, right? So, like, you got 90% of the country walking around thinking they're part of the middle class that is, you know, a fraction of that. And education is often used, like, as a stand-in for class. Like, oh, you know, folks who are college educated are middle class, and folks who aren't are working class. And I think that's really an oversimplification. There are certain cultural things that come with, you know, going through a college education, sure, but there are plenty of wealthy people who are not college educated. Right. There are plenty of college educated folks who are working class. They don't have anything to sell but their labor. They're working for other people in order to survive. They're not employing others. They're not living off profits or rents. They're living off wages. But yeah, so I think that's just a good example of here's someone who is a multimillionaire, who's a business owner. No, he didn't go to college. That doesn't make him a man of the people. Yep. Doesn't make him authentically working class or populist or any of this bullshit that we hear about. You know, I'm sure he drives a big pickup truck and probably wears, you know, flannel shirts and tries to, you know, lean into that like everyman persona. You know, but it's class is a little bit more than that. Class is not about your cultural affect and what kind of music you listen to and what kind of truck you drive. It's about how do you make a living and what's your relationship to the economy and to other people in the economy.
Right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play this. Let's see what happened last week.
All right. Well, hell. Now I've got to find it because I was just so pissed off about having to talk about this stupid guy from, where's he from? Oklahoma, right?
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Teamster 630 Dairy Worker says, Markwayne is mad because unionists struck his house back in the day and wanted to take it out on O'Brien. Where does he live now? Let's go picket it. Yeah, I would do that.
All right. Like now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows in this hearing, the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what.
I just want to note here, your tax dollars were paid.
Yeah, that's right.
For some poor soul to go print off some freaking tweets for this hearing.
Yeah.
Just so you know, like you paid for that. We all paid for that.
Right. Yeah. Hope we feel it was worth it. Isn't that kind of like just that is so
Absurd.
bonkers? Like I am one of the 100 most powerful people, and here's, when I say powerful, I'm going to translate for absolute idiots and dum-dums like Markwayne Mullen. I mean by powerful, I mean not the size of your muscles, right? I mean your ability to shape the world, right? That is, and that is the measure of power, and that is, fortunately, kind of the thing that is more important than than brute strength, than being able to lift weights a certain amount. Doesn't make you more manly, doesn't make you more important or cooler or anything like that. And for people who flaunt that kind of stuff in a very annoying way, I think the vast majority of the public just looks at you like, wow, what a dumbass. I'm not impressed even a little bit. I am annoyed. So, so yeah, your tax dollars paid for some fool, some poor sap to print off mean tweets. And that's another thing. This guy is a senator. I'm going to use my 5 minutes that I could be questioning 3 of the most influential labor leaders in modern history. I don't know since I've been alive, I don't think there's been a single labor leader who has had more influence than these 3, than Shawn Fain, Sean O'Brien, and Sarah Nelson. These are people that are incredibly important in American society, and people whose actions and strategies have an effect on people in Oklahoma. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of UPS workers in Oklahoma who have raises because who are now making $5 an hour more, whose wage, the starting the starting wage at UPS went up from $15.25 to $21 an hour, right? That's a $5 an hour wage raise. Gosh, dang it. I don't know what is wrong with me. That's a $5 an hour raise for some of the lowest paid people at UPS because of the negotiations that Sean O'Brien led. There are there any big 3 auto workers in Oklahoma? I'm not totally sure. Seems like there probably would be. There are no doubt flight attendants in Oklahoma. There are people that are being affected by what these folks do in his district, in his state. And his ego is so wrapped up in this, and I want to ask this guy about mean tweets. It's just what foolishness and silliness. Okay, let's go.
The last one said, greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made. Sir, I wish he was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company myself, and my wife was running the office, because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours.
Okay, here's another.
Pretends like he's self-made.
When he pretends he's self-made is actually the truth. That is a pretend fiction that Markwayne does. And his retort to the assertion that he is fake in his assertions about being self-made, I worked a lot of hours. That's not an answer to the question. Are you self-made? Are you self-made? Well, I worked a lot of hours. My wife worked a lot of hours. Well, that doesn't answer the question, right? Because he can't answer the question because he got his companies from his daddy. His daddy. He inherited the companies that he owned from his daddy. He didn't build them himself. He got them from his daddy.
Oh, I should have just been born to a business owner.
Right. And then you could have been self-made.
Oh, that's what I was missing out.
Right.
Damn it.
It's so...
Opportunity missed.
So stupid. Just so silly. Okay, let's go.
Made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Right. the tough guy act in these Senate hearings, you know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
No, stop it.
Is that your solution? Every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down.
Look at you.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Active.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold it. If we
Okay,
can't,
Now, I just
no,
want to
I have-
comment on this from Bernie. I'm really disappointed in Bernie's inconsistency because he's refusing to call for a ceasefire in Israel, but he's calling for a ceasefire in the Senate. I mean, that's just really not fair to the American public, I think.
And also, to stop this from potentially
Right.
happening is truly a disservice to the American people.
Genuinely. But, you know, the degree to which Sean O'Brien was trolling when he said anywhere, anytime, cowboy, you know, we'll get to O'Brien's response specifically to that, to what kind of implication he was trying to make there. But, you know, aside from the fact, is he trolling or posturing, or does he, had he ever intended to actually fight Markwayne Mullen? That on Twitter was... even if, which it's the case that, you know, Sean O'Brien did not, there's not any intention of actually fist fighting Markwayne Mullen, it seems. And so, you know, maybe some people take umbrage to that, into saying that, oh, you know, he's just trolling on Twitter. And that's, you know, trolling on Twitter is fine, I think. It's not a big deal. But the degree to which that was fake is dwarfed by the fakeness of pretending like I'm gonna fight you in the chamber of the United States Senate. Like, he knew for a fact that there was no shot that a fight was about to happen right then and there. Like, that's just what a silly thing to pretend to believe, because he doesn't believe that.
Hold me back, bro.
Hold me back, yeah.
Hold me back, Bernie.
And he's went on other shows after this saying, like, Neil Cavuto, I think, asked him, were you really about to go and were you really about to do this? And he's saying, yeah, of course, yeah. What a lie, right? Like, there's and anybody who believes his act there, you should really, like, you know, you should really kind of take a step back and think about, you know, think about your gullibility. The degree to which you take these people seriously. It's just so fake, and so much posturing, and so much, you know, just so silly. Okay.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't like you, because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this, because I did challenge you and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. I was.
hold on.
No,
You challenged me to a cage match,
No,
acting like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse me.
Hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me. I have the
I will
mic.
say exactly.
Senator Mullen, I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that say, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about, of course I
And,
did.
and let me show you his hearing, because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
Could you not point to me? That's disrespectful.
All right.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I respect
don't
people that
respect you at all.
respect. So
All right, hold it. No,
You're one of
hold
100
it.
of the most
Hold
elite
it,
people.
please.
Act it.
Please. All right. This is excuse me. This is a hearing to discuss economic issues. All right. If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it.
I mean-
But we're not here to talk about fights or anything else.
I'm quoting exactly what he said.
You can
and
say
this
what you want,
This is
but-
your witness
This
you
is
brought.
my
And
witness.
I'm exposing.
Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
There you go. So that's just, I mean, that it was really funny to watch. Pretty bonkers stuff there. Yeah, I don't know if you've got anything else that you wanted to add before we watch the end of that.
No, I'm just curious what else happens.
Okay, yeah, let's watch the rest of it.
Because you called me out. I didn't call you out.
Yeah, you did.
You said anytime, any place.
That's
what you said.
let's get the record
Okay.
straight.
Ms. Hold it, no.
Hold on.
Senator Mullen, do you have a question for the witness?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think that's what I'm
let's
getting
hear it.
So, anytime, any place.
No, that's not.
April is a charity event.
No, that's
for-
not. That's not. No.
No, it's a, he,
No,
sir, he said it, and this is my
He is
time.
here to
You
tell-
didn't set
no.
parameters on what the questions can or cannot be asked, and I'll ask.
No,
you
you're not going to.
questions.
We're not going to be talking about
Yes, we
physical
did.
confrontation.
Oh, this is about charity, for a union charity, because this
This
is for firefighters and.
Do you have a question on his testimony?
April.
Grow up.
April
Will you
next
please
You
year.
have
grow
a
up. You're an
question
embarrassment.
on his. Let's not be.
You said it.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
said
You're
it,
an
and I'm just
embarrassment.
simply answering it.
You
Senator
reached
Mullen,
out
go
to
hold
your
it.
buddy.
Hold it.
I-
Senator Mullen, you made some charges.
Charges.
Mr. O'Brien, do you want to respond to
Yeah,
the
go ahead,
question?
please.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is,
Accept my challenge, tough
Mr.
guy.
Mullen, tough guy.
Answer. Hold it. Answer the questions.
All right, y'all won. He
Just
made a
one
lot of
second, pause it
statements,
for a
right?
second.
And his statements are
yeah,
fiction
hold
at
on.
best.
Fiction, I read them.
Can you answer?
What?
Okay, go back a little bit so you can listen to that again. But for people that are watching us on YouTube, keep an eye on the guy in the UPS shirt behind Sean O'Brien, because that's almost as funny as the exchange happening between Mullen and O'Brien. His face. So okay, let's.
Answer the questions.
All right, y'all won. He
Please.
made a lot of statements, right? And his statements are fiction at best.
Fiction, I read them.
Can you answer?
What?
Answer the question, please.
I can't understand him, to be honest with you.
All right.
He rambles so much. What was your question, actually?
Except, well, you said I made a lot of statements.
No, but what's your question? I don't understand your question. Could you repeat it?
You said anytime, any place.
What's your question?
Accept the challenge.
What challenge?
You said anytime, any place. I'm accepting yours, so why don't you come
What
back?
challenge? What challenge are you talking
April
about?
30th. How about we do it for a charity at the Smoking Guns in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
We're not going to be
what was the
talking about
challenge?
physical confrontations here.
You want to fight me?
What'd you say about anytime, any place?
Let's have coffee, discuss our differences.
That's what you said.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
All right, well, let's sit down and have coffee.
Let's
I'd
do
love
it.
to.
All right.
I'd love to.
But
It's
the,
funny how you're backing
Okay.
I
out.
don't back on anything.
You did.
You're the one. You're a 100.
Senator-
Should be the most influential people in this country making changes.
Senator
You're
Hassan-
focused on.
Okay.
You're
Thank
focused
you.
on
Why did
debate
you-
that's not
why
even
did
relevant.
you keep texting
You're an
me and they
embarrassment.
got silent?
You're an
Excuse me.
embarrassment.
They went
That's what you-
silence after
You're an
after
embarrassment to
my
the
text.
state of
this
Oklahoma.
hearing is about the condition of the working class in America.
You
That's
brought
why
a
we're
thug
talking.
into this.
You're the biggest thug here.
You brought him in.
All right,
You're the
being-
biggest thug. Even
Look,
your
I don't know
colleagues call you
Why
a
you do
joke.
what you're doing, Senator Hassan?
Thank you very much, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Hassan, you got a
Senator
question?
Mullen, please yield. I've been recognized
No,
by the chair.
you got it.
Back to quoting.
now-
Microphone is yours.
Chairman Sanders, I want to thank you for this hearing. I want to thank Ranking Member Cassidy, too, for participating in it.
So there you go.
I also want to thank the chairman for that hearing. Thanks for doing that.
Oh man.
Still pretty pissed about some stuff you're doing, Bernie.
Yeah.
Foreign policy wise, but
Yeah.
glad you facilitated such a scenario.
Yes. Let's and you know, so a lot of people are kind of leaving out the backstory here, and only accepting Mullen's kind of telling of the events as if everything started with O'Brien, you know, like poking at him on Twitter, right? And that as if that's kind of the genesis. Like for no reason, Sean O'Brien, international president of the Teamsters, representing 1.4 million workers, decided to tweet at the senator from Oklahoma. Like for no reason. That's kind of like the situation is being presented in that context. But this is actually, and so I wanted to play again. We reacted to this when it happened, but I wanted to play again their first reaction back in March when there was another hearing that Sean O'Brien was at, and Mullen was just totally belligerent and disrespectful, and so that folks understand who the aggressor in the situation is. Let's play this clip.
Make it very clear, I'm not against unions. I'm not at all. Some of my very good friends work for unions. They work hard and they do a good job. And so my statements, please don't make an assumption that I'm anti-union. But I also want to set the record straight. All three of you guys have talked about employers being intimidating their employees. But you guys haven't ever spoke about when the unions try to unionize, the intimidation they have to other people that aren't wanting to unionize. You guys don't mention that. Because, see, I started with nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I started below nothing.
Okay, let's just pause it again and remind people that he inherited his plumbing business, among other businesses that I'm not sure if he inherited these other buildings, but when he was elected to Congress, Mullen owned Mullen Properties, Mullen Farms, Mullen Services, and Mullen Plumbing. Okay, so at the very least, Mullen Plumbing, he inherited from his daddy. So, like, the idea that you're going to go up and have the gall before God and everybody in a Senate hearing and say, I started from below nothing. I mean, what a dishonest, lying ghoul. I inherited my daddy's company, and I'm going to get up here and say I started below nothing. I mean, just what? That's really kind of bonkers to have the gall to do that. Yeah, it's really, really, really wacky. I don't understand it. I think there was something else that I wanted to say, but I can't remember, so let's just keep playing it.
And I started growing this little plumbing company with 6 employees to now we have over 300 employees. And back in 2009, you guys tried to unionize me. My guys were making money. They were getting paid more than the union halls were paying their plumbers. Our benefits were better.
No, I remember what I wanted to say. He talked about that during this hearing was about particularly employer interference in union elections. And so he took umbrage to the fact that, I think unions are intimidating. And the idea that you think that is like the primary thing that people in the United States Senate and in politics and in the media need to be discussing is just so on its face absurd. Because you got to think about who has the power, what is the power, what's it derivative from, and what can actually coerce people. Because the people that actually sign the employee's paycheck is the employer, right? And I'm not going to say that there aren't sometimes in a union campaign, maybe in some situations that people who are supportive of the union, I'm not saying that there's never a situation where they do not behave in a manner that I would agree with, okay?
Right, people
Obviously,
are people.
People are people. Unions are human institutions. Humans are flawed, so there's going to be flaws in the systems and in the institutions and in certain iterations and all this kind of stuff, right? But the idea that union intimidation is something that we should primarily be focused on, and I say primarily because the NLRB prosecutes stuff like that, and people are, there is punishment when this kind of stuff happens. But the idea that should be the focus of any sort of concerted campaign against election interference in union elections is just so silly because of where people get their power from in society, like having money and signing people's paychecks. And then also the evidence that we actually have. So we have, this kind of intuitively, obviously employers have more power than unions in a union organizing campaign to intimidate their employees. Obviously, that's just intuitively makes sense. But also, we can look at who commits unfair labor practices more often. It is much, 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 much more often that the employers are convicted or are found to have committed unfair labor practices. That is the reality that we live in. Okay.
But because we started bidding jobs that were union jobs and winning those.
He said that, I apologize. He said, we paid more money than the union pipe fitters and plumbers. I would be willing to bet an irresponsible amount of money that is not true. The only way that I could consider potentially that being true is if their straight wages were more than the unions. But if you, I would be willing to bet an irresponsible amount of money that all in the union pipe fitters were making more money than his non-union plumbers and pipe fitters were. Okay, continue.
Those union pipe fitters decided they were going to come after us. They would show up at my house. They'd be leaning up against my trucks. I'm not afraid of a physical confrontation. In fact, sometimes I look forward to it. That's not my problem. But when you're doing that to my employees, and then when that didn't work, they started picketing our job site, saying, shame on Mullen. Shame on Mullen. For what? For what? Because we were paying higher wages? Because we had better benefits and we wasn't requiring them to pay your guys' exorbitant salaries? You talk about CEOs that are making all this money, and what do you make, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, I know what you make, because in 2019, your salary
See, so we're
was,
starting to see, we can stop it for just a second, and then we can rewind it so we don't miss that. But we're starting to see, like, who is the instigator here? The instigator is obviously not Sean O'Brien here. Sean O'Brien is responding to the belligerence of this non-union, greedy CEO. And we'll talk about his compensation later when he gets to that part of the questioning. But he asked Sean O'Brien a question. He started to answer the question, and then he immediately wouldn't even let him get a word in edgewise. Okay.
Talk about CEOs that are making all this money, and what do you make, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, I know what you make, because in 2019, your salary was, what is this, $193,000? I'm sure you got some pay raises since then.
Yeah, when I was
And the average UPS driver, the feeder driver, makes $35,000 a year. And what do you bring?
That's
to the table?
inaccurate.
Hold on a second.
That's inaccurate. State
I've
facts.
got it right here.
State facts. That's inaccurate.
The average UPS feeder driver makes $35,000. If you don't know your facts, then maybe you should.
I know them because I negotiate the
So
contract.
I say one thing to you. What do you bring for that salary?
What do I bring?
Yeah. What job have you committed, or have you started? What job have you created? One job, other than sucking a paycheck out of somebody else that you want to say that you're trying to provide because you're forcing them to pay dues?
No, we don't force them.
Senator, you've asked the
You're out of line.
Just a second. So remember what his question started as, and then Sean O'Brien gets ready to answer it, and Mullen realizes, like, oh, he's going to have a really freaking good answer to this question, so I'm going to change the question. First, he asked, what value do you bring to your members? What value do you bring to your members? Obviously, Sean O'Brien is prepared to answer that question. Obviously, right? That's such an easy question for a union official to answer. And so he starts to answer it because he's like, oh, I've got this in the bag, right? And so Mullen then changes the question to, what job have you created? What job have you created as a union official? Now, I don't know why he didn't say this, but the UPS contract agreement did create jobs. He didn't say this in the hearing. I'm not totally sure why, but it created like a commitment to create 10,000 jobs over the course of the contract, is my understanding, if I'm remembering correctly, at minimum. Additionally, like above for the current production levels that they have, and there's going to be increases as volume increase and all this stuff, but there's a commitment to create 10,000 more jobs than they have right now. So those are jobs that the Teamsters have created with Sean O'Brien at the helm, right? But he asked that question because he feels like that's more of a gotcha question, and that Sean O'Brien will have more trouble answering that. So okay.
Let him answer
Actually,
the
I
question.
haven't, and don't tell me I'm out
You
of
are
line.
out of line.
Don't tell me I'm out of line.
Well, you frame.
Don't tell me. I'm making a statement.
You frame the statement
You need
like
to
a
shut
tough
your
guy.
mouth
Yeah.
because you don't know
You're
what
gonna
you're
tell me to
talking
shut my
about.
mouth?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yes,
Tough guy. I'm not
Senator,
afraid of physical.
Senator,
You don't have
hold
to,
it.
but don't sit there and tell me I'm out of line.
Senator, you made a statement. You asked the question.
I didn't ask a question.
You did.
I answered the question.
You asked the question about how
Well, it
much
was
money.
rhetorical.
Let him answer.
It was a rhetorical
Well,
question.
you may think it's rhetorical.
It was
Sounded to me
rhetorical.
like a question. Let him answer the question.
I'm not yielding my time to him. So if you're going to let me keep my time, that's fine.
You'll have your time. Let him. You ask
Your
a question. He has a right to answer that.
As far as my salary goes, my salary, if you follow me around, I actually look at this building. I bet you I work more hours than you do. Twice as many hours.
That's impossible. But
no, that's true.
Sir, you don't know what hard work is. If you want to follow my schedule,
I'll do it in a minute. Secondly, UPS feeder drivers, and you can quote Carol Tomei, who quoted this. They make $93,000 on the lower end. Some of them making $150,000.
I said feeder drivers.
Feeder drivers, tractor-trailer drivers. Some of them making $150,000 per year.
Some of them do.
And
I don't disagree with that. After you've been there 4 years.
Most of them make over $1,000.
Okay.
Most of them make over $100,000.
So reclaiming my time.
Yeah, and
I go back
just
to the
another
whole fact that-
on that. He says, sure, some of them do after they've been there for 4 years, as if that like distracts or takes away from his argument or bolsters his argument that Sean O'Brien makes too much money, because he said Sean O'Brien made in 2019 $193,000. That was before, obviously, he was general president. I think now as general president he makes $225,000 a year. And Sean O'Brien has been in the union for, how long? 30 years, right? The people talk about exorbitant salaries of union presidents. And, look, coming from members in the House of Labor, that's a question that we can have and a debate we can have and a discussion that we can have, right? But under, capitalist logic that Mullins loves, typically international union presidents have been doing work for the union for decades before they get into being the president. And then as an international president, they are responsible for the running of an enormous institution, responsible for far more than Mullins ever was, right? Oh, I had 300 employees. Yeah, the Teamsters represent 1.4 million, right? Which one has a bigger effect on the economy? Which one has more work to do? Obviously, being the international president of the Teamsters, there is more work to be done than being the CEO of a non-union 300-person plumbing company. Obviously. And yet, Mullins, before he came into the Senate, before he came into Congress, he was congressperson first, then he came into the Senate. He reported between $200,000 and $2 million in income from two family companies in 2012, the first year that he came into the Senate, into the Congress, in the House of Representatives, right? And so he's supervising 300 people. Sean O'Brien administering an organization of 1.4 million, and his salary is lower than Mullins was, and Mullins is trying to attack his salary. It's just so on their terms, it's such a silly thing to think to talk about when we're talking about salaries that are between 150 or 250, even 300,000 at the high end. It's for large unions, it's not like that's just absolutely ridiculous, especially in the Teamsters union, where it's not uncommon, actually, working for UPS or some of these other tractor trailer drivers, they do make $190,000 a year, some of them, right? So, that's not, if your members are making $190,000 a year, some of them, it's not unreasonable that you're going to be making as much as your highest earning members as the administrator of the entire international union. Not unreasonable. Okay.
Right.
Sir, you haven't created a job.
We haven't?
You haven't been there. You haven't.
Sure we have.
You haven't.
Sure we have.
Tell me one job that you created.
What are you talking about? Be specific.
You're an employer?
No, we're not an
employ
employer.
People?
No, but it's funny.
No, then hold on.
We
Then
create
that's not creating
opportunity.
jobs.
We create opportunity because we
Sir,
hold greedy CEOs
that's
like yourself
not-
accountable.
You're calling me a greedy CEO.
Oh yeah, you are. You want to attack my salary? I'll attack yours. What
go
did you
ahead.
make? What did you make when you owned your company?
When I made my company, I kept my salary down at about $50,000 a year because I invested every penny into it.
Okay, all right. You mean you hid money?
No, I didn't hide. Oh, hold on a second.
Okay, go.
He said that's out of line. You said
All right,
I was out of line.
we're even.
We're not even. We're not even close to being even. You think it's smart? You think you're funny?
No,
you're not.
You think you're funny?
No, I never said. Did I smile?
You frame your opening statement.
Hold on.
You frame your opening statement saying you're a tough
Senator,
guy.
continue.
This-
Senator, Please
this
continue
is
your
behavior,
statements.
but sir, this is. I think it's great that you're doing this because
Me too.
this shows their behavior on how they try to come in and
No, I-
unionize a shop.
No, it's
and they
just-
say about intimidation, and it's not about intimidation.
This,
it's
they
about the
show your
employee
behavior
support.
here. But stay on the issue, please.
The issue is, if you're really for the employee, then why are you against right to work? Why are you against private ballots? If you're really about the employee, let the employee make the choice. I'm not anti-union, but when you don't want to have a private ballot, that's not intimidating? That's not intimidating? Why wouldn't you want a private ballot? That is intimidating the employee. If you
What exactly is he talking about?
Card check.
Right.
Private ballot. That's what he's talking about. He doesn't like the idea of card check.
So I don't know if he's aware, but during a card check, you can choose not to sign that card.
What?
I don't know if anyone's told him this, but
That can't be right.
yeah, turns out a card check doesn't mean, oh, everyone's forced to sign the card and then boom, we're recognized.
Oh,
you have
you
no
know-
rights, you have no freedom here. Your choice has been made for you.
I thought that's why.
Thought that's why
unions
he's mad
wanted
about
it
it,
because
huh?
card check meant that we could go into any workplace with guns and gun to their head, force
Card
people to
check.
hire to sign a union card. But you're telling me that's not the case. Interesting.
I mean, unfortunately not.
And
Just kidding. I'm not endorsing that. But I'm just saying, he may have some misunderstanding of how
Yeah.
this works. Same with right to work, but
yeah, it is. Every time we talk about right to work or right to work comes up, it's just important to understand that right to work laws are government's coercion and interference in the private negotiation process. Because what right to work laws do is it says that it is illegal. It is illegal for unions, for workers collectively to have a contract and for employers to agree to a contract that says, as a condition of employment, you have to pay agency fees to a union. The government comes in and says it is illegal for you to agree to this clause in your contract. You can agree to all sorts of nonsense in your contract and other responsibilities and duties and costs that that employees have to incur, but you can't say that as a condition of employment you have to pay agency fees. That is government interference. That is coercion. That is, in the libertarian sense, against freedom. In the right wing, kind of perverted libertarian sense. And if we're talking about the libertarian sense of freedom, if you don't want to work in a union shop, you can not work in a union shop because there's so many non-union shops. If you want to go work at a union shop, you should absolutely have to pay union dues working in a union shop because you chose in this libertarian sense of freedom. And now I don't necessarily conceive of freedom in the same way. And so I would be more open to a conversation about coercion and employment and, are you actually free to choose your employment, blah, 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 blah. But this freak doesn't believe that way. He thinks that wherever people choose to work is where they choose to work. And if somebody asked him about unionizing, he would say, oh, yeah, I support your right to do it. But instead of that, why don't you just work somewhere else if you don't like the wages that you're paid? Well, why don't you work somewhere else if you don't want to pay dues to the organization that is responsible for creating the benefits and wages and working conditions that shop has?
right. Yeah. I mean, it's just and I have some, I don't know, I feel complicated about the scenario in terms of agency fees and how effective are they. But if the union and the employer negotiate said fees, it should be allowed. And the fact that the government says you can't do that, and in fact, you, the union, must represent people who take a free ride on your services.
Yeah.
You cannot make them pay anything, but you must. Where else? I mean, I can't think of any other examples where you are literally obligated to provide services for free to someone.
Right.
You must pay to provide services for free to someone in this scenario. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
You don't want a right to work state? Don't force somebody to pay dues
Right
to
to
an
work is
organization they may not
force.
agree
Right to work
with.
is government coercion.
Don't force somebody to do something they don't want to do. That's called employee choice. If you want to be part of a union, God bless you, be part of a union. I have no issue with that. But don't sit up here and say that an employee is the one that intimidates their employers are intimidating their employees not becoming a union.
Okay, Senator,
That's not
thank
accurate.
you. Thank you very much, Senator Murray.
It is.
It is absolutely accurate.
We
Like
report
if-
on it every week. It's just the nature of the game. You talk to workers across this country, especially here in the South, and they will be happy to tell you
Yeah.
that you go around using the U word, you might just get in trouble.
Yeah.
So he can eat it.
Absolutely. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.